All right, everybody, welcome to this week's Corn Belt Umpires Association Weekly Zoom Clinic. My name is Jake Samp. Pinch hitting for Connor Singheisen this week is Dan Adkins. And we got a lot of great stuff to talk about, got some really cool videos. Dan had a really great play to end the game this past weekend that I went in and found the video for. And so he'll kind of talk through that a little bit. But first, this morning, we got an email from Larry Gallagher, who is usually on, and I wish he was on today. But Larry is the essentially mentorship umpiring professor guru for the Northwest Association of Umpires out of Twin Cities, an association that I work with a lot during the spring. And every week or so, Larry publishes a bunch of comments, feedback, and kind of bulletins. If you've been around our association long enough, we used to do the bulletins weekly, kind of gone away from that to do more of this stuff. But this week's stuff from Larry was quite beneficial. It's his top 10 things. I don't know if it's things to consider before you go to the preseason. Top 10 just general thoughts on umpiring in general. But before we really get rocking and rolling here, wanted to kind of go through this. And I know if you're on my mentor list for Corn Belt, I have already sent you this, so you should have this PDF available. But the first item here for plate umpires is your pitch positioning. Making sure that your head height is proper. That chin should be at the top of the catcher's head. It should, we want to be locked in. That's what he means when we say don't dip with the pitch. I like this one. Do not get dressed behind the catcher. That's one that I occasionally catch myself doing. The reason for that is as soon as I'm behind the catcher, the pitcher could think that, oh, we're ready to go. And I don't have my mask on. And I've had to come in and kill it because my partner's not ready. So base umpires, if you all of a sudden notice that your partner's getting dressed behind the catcher and the pitcher's like starting his windup motion, sell out, go kill that right away, protect your partner. Make sure you're in the slot, make sure your slot foot's in the same spot over and over again. I always step into my plate stance the same way, so I always go with my slot foot first. That's how I make sure that I'm in the same spot every single time.
Let me jump in there, Jake. Yesterday, I did a single game yesterday with one team that went deep in the regional last year for D3. The opposing team, North Central, has a lot of guys that are kind of new to the game, not as sophisticated. And I typically, in moving quickly, trying to keep the pace, I'll throw my mask on and off right behind the catcher just to try to keep moving. But it's just as bad for a senior umpire to do it as it might be, particularly if you've got teams that aren't, like I said, aren't as sophisticated. You want to make sure that they can see you not able to work, and that means turning to the side or stepping a little bit away. Make sure that pitcher gets into your rhythm. Because yesterday, on 2 occasions, everybody was ready to go because North Central just don't even know that I'm working. They don't have any idea that we just had a change or we just took a ball out of play or something else. So it's really important at every level to make sure that you're not doing anything directly behind the catcher. He can't see you.
Absolutely. The second thing would be pitch calling and cadence. You hear us talk about, timing is not when you actually make the call, it's when you determine what the call is. If you are at the SCUA meetings, it is point 8 on the agenda handout. Same concept with pitch cadence. Doesn't matter if it's a pitch right down the pipe or a borderline pitch. We want to be as consistent as we possibly can be on when we actually signal the call. We call that cadence as opposed to timing because, as I said before, timing is when you make the determination ball or strike or safe or out, as opposed to when you actually verbalize safe or out or ball strike. Number 3 here, talking about being on the line, making sure that we're straddling the fair foul line on those type of plays. Played on, and the same thing, and I don't think it's in this one, but if you're the plate umpire on a potential runner's lane situation, making sure that you're stopped and set on the line. You know, my feet are the same way if it's whether it's a fair foul or a runner's lane interference situation, and making sure that we communicate, hey, I'm on the line. If you got fly balls. Number 4 here, making distance to plays. So making this basically is making sure that we're in position. You know, on your ground balls in the infield or through the base. I guess this is for the plate umpire specifically. So getting as close to the 45 foot line and being on the line stopped. Making sure that if you have a fly ball into your coverage area, you're getting to the proper position on the field. Number 5 would be putting the ball back into play. Make sure we do it every single time we have a stoppage of play. We're going to talk about some situations about when to call time, other than just the don't that we kind of left off with in our the clinic before we did the equipment stuff. Fly and foul balls. This is, you know, I had somebody ask me a while back what I noticed the difference between college level umpiring and, you know, high school umpiring, and the emphasis on not sky the ball. I hear guys say, you know, hey, you did a really good job of you know, not skying the ball. Basically what that means is whenever we have a pop fly or a fly ball, everyone's initial reaction is to do this and look up at the ball. What you should do is turn your head and figure out, you know, we should know what general direction the ball is coming or going just by reading it off the bat. So then take that and go and find which player on the field is, you know, attempting to make a play on the baseball. That the players will tell you what to do. You know, it's no different than, you know, ref in basketball. You don't watch the ball, you watch the players, because the players are the ones that commit the infractions. The baseball's not going to do anything. It's the players that are going to do the funky stuff. So if you see you know, if I'm in A and I have a fly ball and I know that it's hit into my coverage area just by how it went off the bat, and I look and I see the center fielder and the right fielder both sprinting hard to the fence, I'm going out. And I'm going to immediately throw my hand up and I'm going to say, Dan, I'm going out. And I'm going to bust tail into the outfield. Because, and I have no idea where the baseball is at this point in time. All I have is I have my center fielder and I have my right fielder crashing hard to that fence. You know, they're going to tell you where the baseball is going to go. So that's kind of what we mean when we say fly and foul balls.
However, a very, very talented umpire who shall remain nameless, Cody Lowe, was working with Russ and I down in Florida, and it was years ago. And what Cody wants to see from the plate umpire, for particularly on days where it's bright sun or there's a lot of wind, you know, a foul ball that goes behind you, he wants to see your head snap and track the baseball, because it's like you said, you're watching the baseball, you're aware where the baseball's going. So if you're watching that, sometimes if it's hit up, the catcher won't know right away. If you get a sense that that ball is going to stay in play, it's going to be an umpirable event, then you can look up but then immediately get your eyes back down and start tracking your catcher, watch his mask coming at you, maybe leave yours on, watch as your pitcher tries to come into the play. But so a quick peek to see where it's going, if it's in that first 10 to 15 feet behind or in front of the plate, is not a bad idea. But if it's hit out into the field of play, Jacob's dead right. Looking at the baseball is lost time. It's just going to slow you down. I don't think it's helpful. But if it's going behind you, get your head on it. Try to track the baseball as quick as you can. It'll just keep you alert. And I know Russ is here, and Terry Helget's a better umpire than I ever plan on being. So if you guys have comments, please don't hesitate.
All good stuff. And I want to echo what Dan said. Leave your mask on if you can. It's just one more thing to protect your face from flying bats, flying face masks. I mean, I've lost count of how many times I've had a catcher throw a face mask right in my chest. And then I catch it, and hilarity ensues usually because the dugout starts laughing. So number 7 is really simple. When the batter requests time, if it's for a legitimate reason, give it to them. Time. And if it's a left-handed batter, go to your left. If it's a right-handed batter, go to your right.
Yep.
Get out from behind the catcher and the batter. There's a video circulating that I didn't go and find today, and I kind of regretting not finding it, where batter calls time, umpire goes time, and he steps right behind the batter, and the pitcher decides to beam him. And then the batter, makes a move to get out of the way, and all of a sudden, the umpire is staring right down the barrel of a fastball. So call time and go the opposite direction of where the batter's at.
One more point on this. I would get out of the habit of pointing at the batter if you're granting the batter time. On the other hand, if it's the defense that calls it, point at the catcher. The reason you don't point at the batter is just what Jake talked about. Sometimes a pitcher will be close to throwing. He's hot-headed, and you might put the batter in the gun sights. If you're calling time, it's because you've decided it's legitimate to kill this. Doesn't matter really who asked. So pointing at the batter is pointing at the offense, that's a bad idea. But if it's the defense, and you absolutely want to talk, because that time is automatic. We're stopping the clock on catcher's call of time. With the batter, we're going to try to keep him going. We're going to try to keep pace of play, that kind of stuff.
As far as lineup changes are concerned, making sure that you're not bent over doing this, record stuff out like this, that we were keeping our eyes up to the field. Same concept as dead ball officiating in hockey, baseball, or hockey, basketball, and football. Don't take your eyes off. If you don't have a lineup card holder where you can do that with, get one. A lot of good options out there. There's a ton of umpire purchase official stuff like that. Get one. Scoreboard issues. Dan, Russ, Terry, I'm going to kind of open this up. Because I think this is a really good segue to just kind of talk about, hey, here's the situation when we show the count. For me, the way that I do it, if the scoreboard is correct, I will show it on any time we have an odd, except like 1-0. If we got 2-1, 1-2, or a full count. So basically, whenever you add the balls and strikes up, and you get 3 or 5. But then I'll also do it if we have like some weird like foul ball and it takes some time to reset. Then I'll just go 2-2, just so we're all on the same page. But my general rule of thumb is 3 and 5. Dan?
I agree. I do the same. I never indicate 2-2. It's cursed. I got that from Mike Mazzarisi, and I can't get it out of my head. So I'll yell twos. I'll yell twos if it's appropriate. But here's the thing. I know some umpires are like, I don't want to indicate too often. Too many of these scoreboard operators, particularly at the D3 level, just are incompetent. The guy yesterday that we had a mix of North Central and UNW, and they were wrong more than they were right. I'm almost ready to go over and tell them turn it off because it matters. Players are looking at that. They're making decisions strategically based on that. So if I can correct it and keep the pace of play, I will. But one of the ways I fix it is I just scream the damn count out, maybe for every pitch. But so there's different reasons that you might indicate more counts. And when I do indicate a count, I always do it high enough for the center fielder to see me. Then the stuff where you're kind of pointing at the back of the catcher doesn't make any sense. But I'm not averse to over indicating the count to make sure it's early in the year. We want those guys to know. We want them to be square on that. And one of the things that's really important is when you have a pickoff or 2 pickoffs in a row and the ball gets away, get out in front if you have to. Make sure you indicate the count. If you have a balk and you don't count a pitch, make sure you indicate the count there, no matter what it is, because it's real easy for them to lose their train of thought, and the scoreboard again won't help you. You might have a field like Luther where it's hand operated and they've got a little device out there in the scoreboard in right center field, and there's no way to communicate with them because the press box they don't even do the courtesy of having a walkie-talkie. So you're just shouting at somebody out in the box. It's important that the scoreboard be accurate, but there's only so much we can do to make it accurate. You kind of got to handle that on your own, get a feel for that. Terry probably knows better about that than I do.
Hey, Julie. Hang on, guys. I'll be right with you. Julie, just one.
I want to know what he's ordering. Keep the mic on. No, I'm just kidding. Russ, what do you think? If Russ isn't hammering some drywall, and he can weigh in as well.
All right, guys. I was just going through the bank drive-through. But I agree with all the stuff you're talking about with the count. I too, for the most part, adds up to 3 or 5. You always have to give the count on 3-2. But yeah, if you have a delay or a wild pitch or something that the ball gets away, a foul ball, I tend to give the count again, and I will show 2-2. I don't have, all these things that say you can't do this or that. There are times where you just plain, I feel people want to know what the count is for sure, and I tell them because my catching days tell me that. I want to make sure. I usually knew the count as the catcher. I wasn't sure the umpire knew. So, the higher the level, obviously that goes down a little bit, but yeah, it's still something I try to do.
Russ, any other thoughts?
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. Dan and Terry's got it all figured out.
Awesome. First time for everything.
Last thing he's got for plate umpires here is in between innings. Making sure you're away from trouble. That means really 2 things, and there's kind of a delicate balance depending on the temperature of the game. I would say, if you have that contentious strike 3, avoid the situation. So that might be a situation where I go to the previously defensive team's side until the offense is cleared, and then I'll go and stand to get out of the way of potentially getting smoked by a bat. That's why we go to the opposite side of where the on-deck hitter is. Both plate and base umpires monitor the number of pitches and on-deck batters. And this last one, I would say that if you're an umpire that wants to move up, and I think Dan, Terry, and Russ will 100% agree with me on this because we get emails, I feel like frequently. I can't quantify this, but it seems like in every email, it says, make sure to limit discussions with coaches and base umpires. We're there to do a job. We're there to be professional. I'm not there to sit and chit chat with the first base coach or a head coach. If I'm working the bases, I'm going to get the first base coach's name and I'm going to introduce myself. And then we're not going to, that's the extent of my conversation usually with a first base coach. And that's just, if you don't talk to him, silence can't be quoted.
That's true. And if Jay Roofs is working, he's in position A and there's an assistant coach, it turns out that you guys grew up together. You don't have to be hostile to him. But one of the tricks that I use is I see a coach that I've seen a million times, Pat Dolan at third base, and he's really eager to tell me about the previous game's play and what would I have called. I'll say, listen, I'm sorry, Pat, I'm getting evaluated today. I'm on video because every game is live streamed at the college level, and a hell of a lot of the high school games are too. Hey, I'm getting evaluated. I can't talk to you today. If you got a specific question, I'm all ears, but I got to keep my distance. And then literally move away. Get yourself out into the deep B and C that's in the outfield. And avoid that second baseman, avoid that. They'll run right at you to want to ask you a question. Give them, make them go the 20 extra feet to make sure that they want to tell you something, and make it hard to get to you because the game is incredibly colloquial. It's a chatty game. So you're a target. They want to ask your opinion. They want to make sure that you feel good about them. And it's natural to have that conversation. And believe me, I'm the one. I know what I'm saying here. It can slow you down. You want to have minimal conversations. And what Larry's talking about here is getting together as base umpires. We have fun in those conversations. But if there's more than one or two, you guys are screwing something up. There really shouldn't be. You should pregame enough that you guys don't need to get together. And we're going to be professionals. We want that half inning to go quickly. We don't want to be running away from each other late. I had down in Florida, I had a guy that typically walked to his position, and I had to hold the pitcher up 2 times. And this is a very high level umpire. He's very talented. I said, you got to either be running over there or you got to be there sooner. We're not waiting for an umpire to get to his A or his D position. It didn't make any sense. And he took it well, but I was surprised I had to tell him that.
So we had a quick question in the chat here talking about the pounded fists for full count. I put a response in there, but in case anybody else doesn't see this, for those that are watching this later on, this is not a permitted mechanic at any level. Not even Little League lets you do this. 3-2. And I would also add to that, it's not this. It's not hook 'em horns. It's 3-2.
Yep.
It just looks so much more professional. The one thing that I would kind of add to echo what Dan said about the conversation stuff, if it's a reasonable question at an appropriate time, that's just a yes or no. Like I had one a couple weeks ago where they're like, hey, do we have a mercy rule for this game today? No, it's a 7. Okay. That a simple question like that. Yeah, I'll take the 2 seconds to answer that because it's a reasonable question. But when they want to start and when they want to sit and carry on a conversation with you, that's when the issue comes up.
Jake,
So
I have a quick question. If
go ahead.
Good time. Going back to number 1, you said put your head at the top of the catchers. Do you change your height depending on the batter, like the strike zone? I kind of like to put my eyes at the top of the strike zone. Is that? I think somebody told me that out, but.
Let me grab that one, Jake. Let me grab that.
Take it.
The problem is by adjusting to the height of the batter. I mean, you're going to get some kid that comes up that it's 5'2", and you're going to end up crouched, and you're going to sacrifice some of your security, but mostly of just what you're doing and what you're naturally used to doing. The thing that I do is typically anything that's below the top of the catcher's helmet is going to be a strike unless he's swatted so far low. So I'll use other indicators that get me. But it's nice to have your eyes at the top of the zone, but it's a luxury that as you climb, you're not going to be able to do. I want you to be consistent with your stance. I want you to step in at the same time. I want you to put your head. You're using his head and his shoulder. You want to get in this pocket right here because that's usually not only the slot, but it's the best place to consistently get your head and be locked in. If you're adjusting for the height of the batter, it's nice because you're telling yourself, I need to be aware of this in terms of where the top of the zone is. Just get strikes and use other indicators. The top of the helmet, inside his shin guard is probably the plate. It's probably going to be big, it's a little bigger than some of our zones want to be, but use those indicators to tell you what's starting, and then where he catches it, how he receives it, that's going to be your zone. I wouldn't adjust the height based on the height of the batter.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think to kind of elaborate on what he said, I think that it's to go and have that discussion as a training technique early on is a good point to have for newer umpires, but I don't like it from the sense that we have so much bouncing and shifting, and I'm trying to remember. I was when we were doing the cage work at Harrisburg. I was talking with a newer umpire, and we were talking about. I'm gonna do a new share here quick. I'm gonna share my screen here. The graphic one. So. I need the graphic one. All right. So if you see this is myself working at a JUCO game. The red line that we used this last year in one of our clinics on proper plate stance. In this catcher, he walked away from me pre-pitch, and so I kind of got stuck. So I'd like to be ideally about 6 inches closer to the catcher. But you see, my head is my chin is roughly at the height of the catcher's head, and my eyes are looking right through the strike zone.
Hey, Jake, we still have the top 10 shown on the screen, bub.
Oh, cheapers. Okay, well, let's try this again then. Thanks for letting me know.
No problem.
All right, can you see the photo now?
Yep, it's there.
Perfect. Okay. So so as I said, the yellow line is where my chin's at. Red line is my eyes looking right through the strike zone. This is ideally what we want, because while the strike zone may change based on the height of the batter, we want to keep the same sight picture of that strike zone. And so if you base it off of the catcher's height, like where their head height is at, that's really a great rule of thumb to be at. I would also say that, we have some catchers that they will do more of the Jared Saltalamacchia, where they stick one leg out, which is it can be kind of annoying. When you have that situation, we all should know where our plate stance is at for head height wise. If you have a catcher that's throwing a leg out and dropping low, don't go with him per se. Keep that natural head height that you have, because that's that is what your eyes are used to seeing. So that's kind of my thought on that. Dan took care of this one in the chat. Thank you. And yeah, I totally agree with what Dan said here. Yeah, if you need water, go get it. I wouldn't talk to people at the fence, but if you need water, go get it. I think there's an added part in there about sunflower seeds. Don't chew sunflower seeds on the field. It looks unprofessional. But as far as it being a bad look to go over every inning to grab a drink of water, no. Shoot, you could have back-to-back 30-minute innings. I'll go after every 30-minute inning. Yes, absolutely. Because I got to make sure I'm ready to go for the next inning. So nothing wrong with that. So we'll move on to the base umpire side of this. And great questions. Thanks, guys, for those. If we have so for the base umpire.
Hey, Jake, can I add something real quick?
Absolutely, please do.
One of the other umpires asked about, stance, like if the batter is shorter or something like that. And then with catchers being more common in that Saltalamacchia, stance, or where they stick a knee down and stick a foot out. And I used to kind of worry about that stuff too a lot more, where, okay, I want to have my eyes on the inside corner and at the top of the zone, as much as I can. But as I've gone through the ranks a little bit, I don't worry about that so much anymore. I just find and keep my chin at the top of the catcher's head as best I can, and just keep my head still and track with my eyes no matter where it is. And if you've got that lefty-lefty matchup where you don't really have an angle, I do not go over the outside shoulder of the catcher's side. If I can help it, I don't do that. I just have to have extra good timing and just make sure that I wait to call that pitch a little longer until I can see where that catcher caught the pitch. Yep. That's kind of what I've been doing now the last number of years, instead of trying to just always keep the same. It's just not going to happen, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So don't feel bad if you have to adjust, and just basically umpire from time to time back there when certain batters have their hands over the plate and you can't see, or they're crowding the plate, or they're shorter, or they're crouching down more, or the catcher's really low or the catcher's really high. Just find a spot and do the best you can.
I feel like there's a natural follow-up question, Terry and Dan, that might get asked, and that lefty-lefty matchup is a great example of it. But what do you do when someone's pinching? When you got the batter right on top of the plate, catcher setting up right inside, and now you're starting to get squeezed. I know what I do, but Dan, why don't you start? Just kind of gives.
There's a couple of facts that there's a couple of realities to that. Number one, if the batter is crowding, if he's over the plate, there may be a lot more strikes. He's giving up the opportunity to complain about the inside corner. And there's a very strong chance that if he gets hit, we're going to determine that he got hit outside the box and it's a strike based on NCAA rules. That's a fact. Now, you don't want to go in there and steal. That's not what I'm telling you guys to do. But I'm saying if you can't see it until it's at the catcher's mitt, and at the catcher's mitt, it's not in the river, it's on the corner, I'm grabbing that. And the batter's going to go, hey, I couldn't hit that. Look, by your stance, you took away my chance to see the entirety, and where it finished, that's a strike. I'm not going to tell him that, but that's a fact. Okay. If he makes it harder and the catcher's just trying to do his job of trying to establish inside corner, we're strike umpires. If the pitch ends up somewhere outside and the catcher has to flail at it, I don't care if it caught the corner because we're working the inside half. But as far as how you get a look at it, and this comes to me from Mark Ditsworth and Joe Burleson, we had the fantastic advice. He says, if you have to take a knee to get an angle on that pitch, do it. And like what Terry said, adjust to and then umpire this pitch just like any other play. If you end up doing something that's a little unusual, umpire unusual. Just get through it. I don't want to be over the top of the catcher. I've done that. I never want to be on his outside shoulder. I've never done that. But I'll go to a place where I can see the ball released and I can see as much of that 60-foot, 6-inch travel as I can. And then I'm going to umpire the mitt. I'm honestly going to umpire that glove. So if it's stuck, if it's where he asked for it and it's close to the corner, we're defaulting to a strike. And like I said, if he's over the plate and he turns and his arm is in a position that's outside or on the line, for example, so theoretically it's in the box, but he makes contact, stay here. The reason you got struck is because the stance you took and the actions you engaged and you interfered with the flight of that baseball. You're going to have to defend it. It's where we have to have the conversation's going to come, and you got to keep your composure and say things that are from the rule book. All that's true every time, but it's especially true here because it's kind of a hyped up. What happens? It's a 7th inning. There's a runner at third. They want to get that run home. This guy's trying to influence the pitcher. Well, the pitcher has rights. Okay. The catcher has an option to catch the baseball in flight. And if this batter's interfering, stay here and add a strike. And it's like I said, you're going to earn your money. Your check is going to come into a clear view on that kind of play. It's what we do to umpire. And, like I said, and like Terry said, if you end up having to take a knee, if you end up having to sort of adjust your mode, the best you can, take your zone with you. But if it ends up that you get a little bigger, I got no problem with that. And I think that's the way to umpire out of that. I'm sure that Russ and Terry have different takes on it. But like I said, a lot of this is, and another piece of language that you get from Springfield, make a call, be ready to defend it. And so, as you look through it all, and like Terry said, let that pitch travel all the way into the mitt and all the way into received, all the way caught, and then make your decision, because you can indicate whenever the hell you want. They may think you look more uncertain because you took time. What you're doing is you're officiating to the end of the pitch, and that's in the mitt and that's received. That's locked. Then I come up and call a strike. And so, like I said, if it's defensible as a strike, call it a strike, I think.
Yeah, I like that. I was always taught, and I could certainly be wrong. I made it work for me, and I think being at 6'6" does definitely play into this, and it helps me. I go up, so I don't get above the hands, but I will get up a little bit higher from where I usually am. Especially if the catcher physically sets up inside as opposed to just his glove. Then I'll go up a little bit. And for me being 6'6", that works. But the point of this is, that this discussion with, what to do when you get kind of pinched on the inside is just like with the mechanics. Okay. If you're with us last season, we went through the entire mechanics book over a couple weeks. It was probably one of my favorite, mini series that we've done on these clinics. If you're new to these clinics, or you're wondering, because the SDUA just adopted new mechanics, go to the Corn Belt Umpires Association YouTube page. I have gone in and I have, within about an hour or so of time, I've gone through the entire mechanics book and just given basically the black letter of this is what we're doing in this situation and here's why. That's available. It's well worth At least I think it's well worth being able to understand, the theory behind it, and stuff like that, but also, what it is that we're doing and why. But if you go through those videos, you will hear me say occasionally that the mechanics are not the be all end all. Okay. And I might not get, a 2-4-6 step on a ground ball in the infield. Why? I might have, there might be something weird that happens. The mechanics are where we start. It's not the be all end all of umpiring. And so, yes, I would say that the mechanics say that we want to have our chin at the top of the catcher's head. But that doesn't take in the fact that there are so many other circumstances that can occur within any given pitch that we just have to go umpire it. 90, every person in this population could umpire 95% of a baseball game. It's that 5% that we get paid for. So just don't be so hung up on getting, I got to have my head in this specific position every single time. Because it's not gonna be beneficial to you. Dan, it is 20-1. How about we cover base stuff next week?
Okay.
You want to do the ball video? Should we do your force play slide video first, and then we'll do that Liberty Instagram that you sent me?
Do it.
Cool. All right, let me get this pulled up here. If you want to start briefing this, I'll get it pulled up.
This is the Luther or the Concordia?
Luther, no video at Concordia.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that's right. It was in Mankato. So we have been informed point blank, and I've been arguing with Russ about this, and not arguing, actually, he and I are in agreement. Force play slide rule is a get it every time it happens, and it's any umpire on the field. Obstruction, interference, force play slide rule. We are all charged with the responsibility to see this. On this play, we've got a single runner at first base. There's a 10-run gap, so this could be the game ender if this double play is pulled off. And my partner is going to officiate a ground ball to the first baseman. He's going to throw to second in plenty of time to get R1. But watch R1 as he comes into second base. The fact that they completed this double play is not necessarily the controlling feature on whether I'm supposed to indicate. I'm the plate umpire. I've got an eye on this, and my partner is going to be doing his job. He's going to go back over to first, and I'm going to grab this. But so the question that I had for my colleagues was, how affirmative do I have to be? This is going to end the game. This is the first game of a 2-game set. There's a 10-run gap. We're in the 7th inning. It's colder than balls. It's horrible. But and that's not a cuss word. I didn't cuss. You can keep that on the recording. I usually screw that up. But and I did say, anyway, it's fine. So let this run a little bit. And what I tried to do is I tried to indicate where everybody could hear me. Nobody's paying attention except for Carl, the coach from Loris, who's coming out from the third base box. He looks at me and says, "What do you got?" And I said, "The runner first is out twice." And he goes, okay. And I explained to him what's going on. But sort of, it's just an unusual circumstance. If it had not been the game ender, if there had been no outs on this, we'd have had a conversation. But go ahead and let it run.
The runner at first is out twice. I love that line. Here we go. And I got this muted. Commentary's interesting for these videos. I'll play it back again here.
First question I've got for the group, is this force play slide rule?
I'll tell you, I'm going to go get it.
And as we talked about, I've got to change here. So I went over to the side to make sure the pitcher doesn't get going. So does he do one of the 3 things that's authorized? Does he slide legally? Does he give himself up early? Does he peel off? And like I said, nobody paid attention. Carl's just yelling at me over here, and I just said he's out twice. And away we go. I was wrong on this one. It was just first 2 outs. he's going to ground out to end the game. That's right. Or whatever the hell happens. It's unusual. It's a relatively new call. A lot of people just, they're not thinking about this. And as the base guy, he's got work to do. And I'm in position. I can see first base if I have to, but I've just noticed that there's absolutely nothing legal about what happened at second base. I know a lot of guys will run to get there. It's a double play situation, but they'll still try to move up a first base line so they can get pulled foot. I just think you need to have your eyes on second base. That's your first responsibility, is the quality, the legality of the slide. I just think that's the important thing to do here. Any other comments or thoughts? Jesse Devine in the chat says almost no one calls it, but that's right. We need to get
go
it.
get this.
Now, I got a question for you. I don't have video for you. This is down in Florida, but imagine we've got loaded bases and we've got one out. And the ball it's a swinging bunt, basically. He flails at the pitch, puts it into the ground right in front of the plate. Pitcher comes in, picks it up. There's going to be a close play at the plate. And instead of just operating a force play, well, run that back one more time. There's one question I want to ask about this. Did my partner get the play at first correct? My concern was this is going to be a tough double play to turn because it's going from F3 to F. It's coming over to F4 and then coming back. I wanted to be ready to make sure we got the second out in case this runner beats this. I think, in fact, he got it right. And my partner had a pretty good look at it. I'm not as focused on first base, but my concern was if that ended up being a close play and my partner wasn't sure, if I get the force play slide rule, we don't have to worry about first base. Everything at first base is irrelevant because force play slide rule is a dead ball. It kills it at second base. And I thought about coming out and being more assertive on it, but I don't want to be looking at the umpire. I've signaled it. My assigner can see that I got it. And I think that's as much as we can do from here. But now on the different play, if it is the pitcher fielding a ball, throwing to the catcher in this instance does not make a force play by standing on the plate. He actually turns it into a tag play. And R3 came in standing up. He ran directly into the catcher, not hard, but he just basically ran directly into a tag on his chest. And F2, the catcher, did not turn to throw to first. He was never in his mind trying to get that second out at first base. How many of us are going to grab force play slide rule on that and get the second out? Because the rule states very clearly the likelihood of a double play is irrelevant. It's not second base. It's not what you typically would think about. But force play slide rule clearly says in the rule, it applies at every base equally. What we're talking about is if a plate umpire, or frankly, any umpire that sees it, grabs that double play, grabs an out at the plate and the batter runner out, the offensive coach is not long for that game. You're going to have a hell of a conversation and you're going to have an ejection. There is an argument for preventive umpiring if no one says anything. If the defensive team, the coaches don't even realize that force play slide rule is an option there, and they almost typically don't, do you just preventively umpire, take the out, and move on? Russ makes the point. I'm putting his name on it because he's this umpire. He's this guy. He's so damn good. But Russ makes the point. We don't have an exception for preventive umpiring in the rule. The rule says if the runner from third doesn't do one of the three things that are authorized when advancing home on a force play, he's out, and his act of interference means that batter runner is out. It's a safety rule and it's an interference rule. But I want you guys to have this conversation. If you guys are not working college yet, if you're climbing into the ranks, got to think about this because it's what makes us college umpires and not just folks that have fans that are on the field. You've got to be ready to handle this play. It's a big one. The game where it happened, 1-run game, that run would have tied the score. They clearly got an outcome, and the pitcher wasn't quick with this play. It's not obvious he's going to be out. And again, the catcher kind of hurts our case because he reaches up and puts a tag on instead of just touching the plate. If he's touching the plate and wheeling as if to throw to first, even if he's not going to throw, and the runner comes in and makes contact with him, there's nobody alive that's going to say that's legal, right? You're going all in your head are going to say he's got to slide, and there that force play slide rule is going to be easier to sort of explain and get people to understand. But the point is that runner's got three options, and he availed himself of neither of them. So the call that you've got to be ready to make in your head is not just that out, but I'm getting the out at first when there's no throw and no attended throw. It's a big deal. It's going to require you to umpire your way out of it. Terry, what do you think about that? If you're still on, I think there you are.
I'm not so sure about all that. I'm going to be in the other camp a little bit more. the play at the plate, let's start with that. As you described it, if the guy comes in, doesn't throw the flippers out, and he's out, he's tagged out, doesn't really have a place to go because maybe the catcher's in his path, I don't know, with the ball, I'm not going to make him slide. And if he doesn't, I'm not going to, and they are just happy to get the tag play at the plate. I'm not looking to go force play slide rule and show everybody how smart I am. That's just in my nature. If nobody's asking for it, we're playing on. This is baseball. It comes down to a point sometimes where I know what the rule is, but I also know what the intent of the rule is. I'm not sure I can justify getting that out at first base too on the play at the plate that you described, as you described it.
Right.
The play that we saw.
If he runs through the catcher and makes contact,
different story.
No flippers, but if he clips him and the catcher goes down, do you feel like that's different?
Maybe, yeah, that's different. That's going to be a gut feel play.
Got it.
The play that you showed, or Jacob showed a bunch of times, was that you at doing the plate there? That's what I was from yesterday or the day before.
Sunday.
The video isn't great. The angles aren't great. Two questions I have are your positioning to make that call. Okay, I get it. You don't want to go down the first baseline, but sometimes what I'll do is I will go down the first baseline for two reasons. I can be there for a swipe tag if needed.
Right.
And I've actually got a better look at the line that the R1 is taking into second base from that angle, similar to a deep B position versus a deep C position, like you basically were from behind the plate going straight towards the mound. So to me, I can kill two birds with one stone. And on the video, as for the actual play itself, I'm looking at the runner going and standing up. It's hard to tell because it was kind of choppy on my video with my Wi-Fi, but I couldn't tell. It looked like he was out by so much that he just figured, why even bother to slide? The shortstop had already, hit the bag and gone and kicked himself towards third base. So that R1 is no longer altering the play, which is also a necessary element in the force play slide rule. A case could be made, well, he's not, he's going into the base, but yet he's not altering the play. If I have to think that much about it, I'm going to be reluctant to go, get something that's not been part of baseball for 100 years. And I get it that this is a safety rule and it doesn't matter whether we'd get the guy at first or not. I'm just telling you how I look at these, or tend to look at these things, for better or worse. Just another perspective.
Let me just say, I absolutely I like the idea that I can make ground up to first, get the pitcher out of my line of sight, and try to get a cleaner look at second base. That's a good point. I don't have a defense for why I wasn't moving more, frankly. You're right. I think it'd be a little easier sell if I got a better, cleaner look at what his line was. What told me that it was interference is I have the defender trying to make sure that he doesn't hit him with it. He's not altering his throw, but he's making sure that the throw is clear. And I've got the runner going directly into the bag. So I can't defend him by saying he peeled off. He didn't slide. I had one guy I've had a guy slide halfway just to make sure to get the hell out of the way. And this guy did none of the three things. And I've got him literally running straight into the base. And I'm just thinking of the Mattingly play. I'm thinking of some of the videos that we've gotten, frankly, recently, saying get it every time.
And like I said, from my angle behind home plate there in a choppy video, I couldn't tell for sure. So I can't say right or wrong on that. So I just couldn't tell how far, by how long he was already out and that sort of thing. But no, I'm not saying it was a bad call at all.
Good. I'm gonna stick a disclaimer in here. This is a college play, and what the discussion that is being had right now revolves around the college rule, which is slightly less restrictive than the federation rule. I would tell every high school umpire in here, because I've seen a video where it's not choppy, in this situation, go get it. The player safety side of it, the NFHS has made player safety such an important element. Go get this. This is a force play slide violation. Go get it. And I see Jesse just unmuted himself, and I'm not going to put words into Jesse's mouth. So I'm going to let Jesse kind of finish my monologue.
I do a great enough job putting my own foot in my own mouth.
Don't guide him.
No, Jake's right. speaking from the levels that we kind of deal with in South Dakota, Amateur Legion, high school, A, VFW, you name it. I don't think there's a level in South Dakota where we wouldn't want you to get that call. I mean, we can have the discussion about college, completely understand, but for our levels, that's an easy one for us, and that's an easy one everyone should be getting. And if we do call that one, and we call the borderline ones, then that's going to remind everybody, hey, get down, get out of the way. If you call it once in a game, everyone remembers it, and you basically don't have to officiate the rest of the night. Is usually what I've seen. But yeah, go get it. Because even the amateur level, yeah, they're adults, but they've adopted the American Legion's Legion slide rule, which is almost word for word the Fed rule. So they're pretty strict. Go get it. If you get this one, the rest of them are easy because you won't have to. They won't happen because they'll do their own. They'll do their best to get out of the way.
That's Jesse's dead right. If you're explaining this and you're able to tell the coach, he's got three options. He can slide legally with his feet down, he can peel off, or he can surrender himself. You can't do what he did. And then they're going to go back and go, can you believe this crazy umpire? Well, why don't we slide? And then you get the right, because they don't want to risk, they don't want to lose outs. They don't want to give that up. And like I say, even though this double play was completed, had it not been, or if it had been a closer call or a questionable call, it's just great to come in and say, it doesn't matter. He's out. Batter's out.
Yeah, do you want to do the Liberty video, or do you want to do the force play slide tape that we got like 2 or 3 weeks ago?
What did you just ask me?
Do you want to do the Liberty video last, or do you want to do that force play slide situation from Wichita State a couple weeks ago that we got in that training video?
Do the one from Wichita State, because I think that's right on the heels of what we're talking about. Yeah.
All right. So
and now Terry's not here, so we can talk about Terry. I'm just kidding.
All right. So for those of you that don't know, if you're working at any level above high school, we are getting emails constantly on training videos. Hey, here's what we see. This is how we want this enforced. This is a great, and I'm going to call it the weirdest force play slide situation I've seen at second base. I will venture out on a limb to say that this is the weirdest one that I've seen. And so I'm gonna make sure I have it muted and whatnot. And we're gonna talk about this within the context of the high school rules, which are more strict. So if, hypothetically speaking, if this is illegal in college, it's illegal in high school. But after I show this, I want to open this up to people, and I want to hear what you think about this, because I'm not saying this is illegal. I'm not saying this is illegal yet. Watch the video and make the call. I'll play it back twice more. Actually, I'm going to let this finish playing out so we get a little bit more of an angle on here. This is not your computer being choppy. This is actually in slow motion.
So what you're seeing here is an umpire is making a call that R1 has beaten the force play attempt to get him out at second base. He is safe at second. And I think the video supports him. The kid's there on time.
The other angles are, I mean, this is arguably the best angle that they have. And I really wish I could have this angle for some of the more local college stuff. And I realize this is a Division I game. I think using 3. No.
3.
Yeah, this is a 3-man crew
Valley
here.
is 3. Yep.
So I'll watch one more time, and then I want to hear what everybody else thinks about this before we kind of talk about it. So the question to summarize is, does R1 beating the throw negate force play slide rule? Anybody can feel free to unmute and take this one. Or feel free to drop the answer in the chat.
He's nailing up fucking drives. Doggone drywall.
Somebody's got
Andrew Gross has a good point. What do you got, Russ?
somebody's got to work and make.
What's that?
Somebody's got to work and make a living.
Not you.
No, that's the problem. I'm doing too much work.
What do you got on this?
Right.
Well, that's obvious. The safer out is never mentioned in that rule. In any context.
That's
so
right.
It's just not relevant.
It's going to feel weird.
Sure.
And this is where the language that it is a safety and an interference rule. We got to be ready to explain that to the coach, saying he stealing on the play and likely to get there, doesn't matter. He's got to lay his body down or peel off or surrender himself. And, really legal slide is the way to avoid an issue here. Get your butt cheek on the ground, keep your legs low, slide in a direct path. There's only one photo in the rule book. It's not a photo. It's a graphic. There's only one in there. And it tells you, get your body in line between first and second. And if you do that, if that's what you're doing on the ground, you're legal. And if you don't, it doesn't matter if you beat it. It's good. Terry's not wrong. This is outside of the rhythm of the game of baseball. And it's 140 odd years of go out there and make sure. There you go. There's the graphic. The 140 years of baseball was founded on, I'm not letting my batter runner get out at first. I'm going to take this guy out. There's, again, catch a crash. We spent years trying to figure out what to do with it until they just simply said, you cannot barrel through the catcher. Well, you can't barrel through the second baseman. You can't make the shortstop have to work around your body to make that play back at first on any force play. One of the questions came up, what if the ball's hit to the outfield and the outfielder can't get to it, but R1 had to hold up? If he's throwing the ball from the outfield and this same play develops this way, is it a force play slide rule situation? The answer is yes. The force play slide rule applicability in either Fed or college is not limited by the origination of the throw. It's not limited by whether or not the runner is safe at second. It's not limited by whether a double play is likely. It's just not. The double play is likely only comes into play on an interference of a different type. If a batter runner runs into a catcher who's trying to catch a baseball and the runners are off the bat, you get 2 outs there. I know this because I missed this early days of my career, and I can still see it, and I can still and nobody said anything. I didn't get any pressure for it, but I was crazy. I had anxiety about it after. I went back and looked in the rule book, and it took me about a day to figure out if a double play is likely and a batter runner has interfered, we get 2. On this one, we get 2 because that runner being safe at second just doesn't matter. He's got to lay down. The runner and his coach are almost certainly going to leave this ball game at a D1 level. Doesn't matter. You got to be right. You got the protest will end in your favor when that comes out because you're going to call this right. And it's tough. It's like enforcing the timing rules. It's like adding a strike when a batter's picking his nose at 19 seconds. It's hard to do because it's not in the rhythm of the game, but we're changing that rhythm. And it takes brave umpires. You got to be ready to get together on this, and you got to get it right. Russ is taking off. I got to do the same.
I will wrap this thing up, and we'll see you next week. So I'm going to just kind of wrap this.
Question. Oh, you aren't done yet, guys. Sorry.
Just no. I have time. If I realize that we try to cap this at 1 o'clock. If you got to leave, that's fine. I will send out the YouTube link later.
Hey, Jake, real quick. I see Andy had a question regarding out.
Yep.
The ruling says for Legion baseball and high school, any force play, so 0, 1, or 2 outs. So you wouldn't have a double play, but you would get that out at second base.
Go get it.
And regarding safer out at second base, again, any force play. So it was a force play. Yeah, he beat it, but it was still a force play. He violated the rule. You got yourself 2 outs. So
I'm gonna read an excerpt from the NCAA book because I think the NCAA book is arguably the best at stating this. The intent, this is a verbatim quote, The intent of the forced play slide rule is to ensure the safety of all players. This is a safety and interference rule. Whether the defense could have completed the double play has no bearing on the applicability of this rule. You heard everybody, Russ, Dan, Terry, myself, we were all talking about this is a safety rule and it's an interference rule. Okay, that just goes back to keeping your nose in the book and knowing what the book says. So yes, we are going to go get 2 outs on this, irregardless of whether the ball is thrown, whether double play is, that doesn't matter. We're going to go and we're going to kill it right away. Jay, you said you had a question. He's still here. I think he left. All right. Well, do we have any other questions relating to this? I didn't really cover much that I had planned for today, but that's kind of the beauty of this clinic and setting is we're able to kind of adapt on the fly. I guess next week we'll probably plan on going through the base umpire side of this. And I'm gonna shut the recording down now. But if you have questions, I would encourage you to stick around and I will be available to chat for a few more minutes.